What unfolds when a legendary Hollywood actor finds himself in a heated, live discussion with a rising political powerhouse? What was expected to be a casual conversation merging entertainment and politics quickly escalated into one of the year's most jaw-dropping television moments. Brad Pitt, the internationally acclaimed actor known for his calm and poised presence, abruptly exited the set of Patriot Spotlight following a tense and emotionally charged exchange with Karoline Leavitt, the White House press secretary celebrated for her sharp intellect and unwavering political convictions. What started as a routine interview soon transformed into a high-stakes battle of ideologies, cinema versus politics, captivating viewers all across the country. But before diving deep into this unforgettable showdown, let us know where you're tuning in from, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a breaking story. Beneath the gleaming lights of the Patriot Spotlight studio, longtime host James Thornton walked onto the stage with his usual composed demeanor. His welcoming smile hid the seasoned edge of a man who had seen his share of tough, on-air confrontations. Gripping the microphone, his voice echoed with authority and anticipation. "Welcome to Patriot Spotlight," he announced. The atmosphere buzzed as though the opening lines of a great debate had just been spoken. Then came the name that set the crowd roaring: Brad Pitt. The audience erupted into cheers, whistles, and applause, the kind of reception reserved only for icons. Pitt emerged wearing a sleek charcoal gray suit, each step exuding confidence, as if the stage had always belonged to him. His relaxed smile and scanning gaze conveyed charm and humility. He waved graciously to the crowd, then turned to shake hands with Karoline Leavitt, who was already seated confidently. Her tailored navy dress sharpened her presence, her posture straight and expression observant, like someone evaluating a rival in a chess match. Though it was their first meeting, their energy created an instant tension, an unspoken acknowledgement of the ideological divide between them. James Thornton eased into the conversation with a natural flow. "Brad, your new film Borders of Hope is making waves. What inspired you to tell this story?" Pitt responded with his signature warmth. "The movie's about people chasing a better future. I think it's a reminder that at our core we all dream of something better," he said, briefly pausing to let the sincerity settle. The audience responded, some nodding, others applauding, while a quieter group wearing MAGA apparel observed closely. Thornton turned to Karoline Leavitt. "As White House press secretary, what's your take on Hollywood's approach to serious issues like immigration, especially through films like this?" Leavitt offered a soft but deliberate smile, speaking clearly. "I appreciate the narrative Brad presents," she began, her tone respectful yet firm. "But films sometimes romanticize complex realities. Immigration isn't just a story. It's tied to national security and the economy. This administration is focused on protecting American lives, which means confronting the issue honestly and realistically." Despite the improvised nature of her words, Leavitt's delivery was articulate and powerful. A ripple passed through the audience. Some clapped, particularly those aligned with conservative views. Pitt raised his eyebrows slightly, but stayed composed. "I see your point, Karoline," he said evenly. "But movies don't have to address every political detail. They can reach people emotionally. That's how we sometimes learn compassion." His smile attempted to steer the conversation toward common ground, yet Leavitt's piercing gaze hinted that she wasn't done. Thornton stepped in with enthusiasm. "That's an interesting contrast. Brad says stories speak to the heart, while Karoline stresses the importance of real-world implications. Is there a middle ground?" The question rippled across the studio like a stone breaking a still pond. Leavitt didn't hesitate. "Art and politics can intersect," she replied, "but only when both sides are honest. Hollywood holds enormous sway, and with that influence comes responsibility." She looked Pitt straight in the eye, not aggressively, but firmly enough to make her message unmistakable. Pitt nodded, but a trace of discomfort flickered in his expression. Responsibility is important, no doubt, he answered slowly, but art shouldn't always be forced into a political box. Sometimes it just needs to reflect the human experience. The audience buzzed, some agreeing with Pitt, others leaning toward Leavitt's logic. Thornton seemed energized by the rising tension. "Let's go further," he said, voice dropping slightly as if bracing for the storm. The mood in the studio grew heavier, a chill washing over the audience. The casual tone of the interview had evaporated. Thornton's eyes darted between his guests, aware that the conversation had reached a tipping point. "Brad, your film shines a light on the immigrant experience. Do you believe it can influence how people perceive border policies? And Karoline, what's your view on that?" Leavitt's posture shifted ever so slightly, a controlled smile touching her lips as her eyes narrowed, focused like a strategist. Her voice was steady, each sentence deliberate. "Art does move people emotionally, and that's powerful," she acknowledged. "But when it comes to border policy, emotion isn't enough. We're dealing with real consequences, stretched public services, overwhelmed hospitals, lost jobs. Last year alone, over 2 million border crossings severely impacted local communities. Hollywood tends to miss these hard truths." Applause rang out from the conservative audience members, while others listened in tense silence. Pitt shifted, in his seat, his jaw tightening ever so slightly, though he maintained his poise. Running a hand through his hair, he took a breath. "I understand, Karoline," he said, a new firmness in his voice. "But Borders of Hope isn't trying to write policy. It's about families torn apart, people with dreams slipping away. If we only talk statistics, we risk forgetting the real people behind them." His voice trembled slightly with emotion, triggering cheers from his fans. Yet those in MAGA hats remained still, arms folded, their focus now firmly on Leavitt. Thornton jumped in. "We're hearing a powerful emotional argument from Brad and a grounded policy perspective from Karoline. Let's open this up. Karoline, how does Hollywood's freedom of expression affect political discourse? Brad, feel free to respond." The studio fell silent, waiting for their answers. Leavitt gave a composed smile, seizing the opportunity. "Freedom of expression is essential," she said confidently. "But it also demands accountability. Hollywood influences how people think. If films oversimplify something like immigration, the public may misunderstand the complex decisions leaders must make. Art should inspire, but it shouldn't mislead." Her unscripted remarks hit like a prepared statement. Clear, well-reasoned, and forceful, earning energetic applause from the conservative audience, while murmurs spread among Pitt's supporters. Pitt inhaled deeply before speaking. "I agree, freedom requires care," he admitted. "But storytelling doesn't always need to push policy. Sometimes a story is just that, a way to make people feel seen. If we expect every film to mirror legislation, we might lose what makes art truly human." He scanned the audience, his eyes seeking understanding. Some clapped, others remained unsure. But Leavitt didn't flinch, her gaze steady and unreadable. Thornton leaned in, intrigued. "So Brad, you say stories connect us. Karoline, you believe influence must be handled carefully. Is there a space where both views can coexist?" The studio tension reignited, ready to combust. Leavitt answered firmly. "There can be common ground, but only if both sides are honest. Hollywood's impact is real. That power shouldn't just entertain. It should educate and enlighten. It should bridge understanding, not avoid responsibility." She turned toward Pitt, her tone more measured than combative, but intense enough to command respect. Pitt's hand gripped his armrest slightly tighter as the verbal duel pushed on. "Karoline, I'm not here to debate policy," Pitt said, his words rushing out like they were trying to escape the room. "I make films, not political statements. If you want to talk statistics, that's not my specialty." Yet instead of easing tensions, his comments only intensified them. Some conservative attendees smirked, while his supporters exchanged anxious glances, concerned for their star. Thornton, displaying the smooth control of a seasoned host, intervened to keep the show on track. "Both of you have raised compelling points," he said, his voice acting as a bridge between two opposing views. "Karoline," he added, "not every film has to be political. Brad, would you like to respond?" That invitation felt like a last opportunity, but Pitt seemed to have reached his breaking point. He suddenly stood, arms stretched wide, eyes blazing with frustration. "I didn't come here to be grilled like this," he snapped, his voice trembling, clearly on edge. "I wanted to discuss the movie, not get pulled into a political fight." With that, he turned and strode off stage, leaving behind a hushed and stunned audience. Whispers rippled through the room. Some booed, others murmured in disbelief. Karoline Leavitt remained seated, her lips slightly tightened, her expression calm. There was no gloating in her eyes, only the satisfaction of having fulfilled her role. She glanced over at Thornton and gave him a subtle nod, acknowledging the platform he had provided. Thornton remained poised. Standing, he raised a hand and addressed the audience, his tone smooth and reassuring. "Thank you, Brad and Karoline, for a passionate exchange," he said, his smile a polished mask over the tension that had just played out. "We've witnessed two strong viewpoints, and that's what Patriot Spotlight is all about. Let's give them both a round of applause." The applause followed, uneven and mixed. Some clapped enthusiastically for Leavitt. Others were still trying to process Pitt's abrupt exit. As the stage lights dimmed, Leavitt rose and shook Thornton's hand, her gaze bright with self-assurance. The audience began to stand and exit, but the air still carried the aftershock of what had transpired. A few Trump supporters stood up to cheer for Leavitt, while Pitt's loyalists huddled together, discussing his walk-off in agitated tones. Phones were discreetly pulled out, and short clips began surfacing online with captions like, "Pitt storms off after Leavitt presses him." Backstage, the heavy studio doors closed behind Pitt, his footsteps echoing down the stark, tiled hallway. The tension inside the studio hadn't dissipated. The audience, still murmuring, created a chaotic backdrop as people scrambled to upload clips with headlines like, "Brad Pitt exits under pressure from Karoline Leavitt." At center stage, Alex Thornton motioned calmly to the crew, his face composed though his eyes twinkled slightly, as if he had just wrapped a dramatic finale. In the green room, Pitt stopped to catch his breath, hands on his hips. His team, manager, assistant, rushed to comfort him. "You did what you could," one assistant said gently, but Pitt shook his head, eyes dark with frustration. "I didn't come for this," he muttered. "I just wanted to talk about the movie. She was just too sharp." His manager, a woman in her 50s with her hair pulled neatly back, placed a hand on his shoulder. "We'll handle the aftermath. People will understand you weren't there to argue politics." Pitt only nodded faintly, lost in thought, clearly replaying the exchange in his mind. Meanwhile, Leavitt lingered in the studio beside Thornton. Dressed in a navy suit, she maintained a polished grace, but exuded clear confidence. "Thank you for providing a balanced platform," she said softly. Thornton smiled, giving a respectful tilt of his head. "You really gave the audience something to think about," he replied warmly. "That's exactly what Patriot Spotlight aims to do." Leavitt returned his nod with professional poise, as if political sparring were just another item on her to-do list. An assistant nearby glanced at their phone and whispered, "Pitt-off is trending." Leavitt offered a slight smile but didn't comment. Her eyes, however, revealed quiet satisfaction. As the studio lobby filled with departing audience members, debates flared. Near the exits, Trump supporters enthusiastically praised Leavitt. "She told it straight," one man said, raising his coffee cup. "Hollywood thinks it's above everyone, but she put them in their place." Across the room, Pitt's fans were holding their ground. A young woman in a Fight Club t-shirt turned to her friend, her voice thick with frustration. He just wanted to promote his movie, and they kept forcing politics on him. She went too far. Another friend replied quietly, "She wasn't aggressive, just smart. Brad wasn't ready for it." The tension spread like ripples on water. Social media lit up moments after Pitt's walk-off. One tweet read, "Karoline Leavitt just schooled Brad Pitt on live TV." A Pitt supporter shot back, "He's an artist, not a politician. He wasn't going to play that game." Videos captured from the audience quickly went viral, showing Pitt standing and exiting with Leavitt sitting calmly, barely reacting. Neutral viewers posted their takes too. "They both had points," one user wrote. But Leavitt owned that moment. Pitt should have stayed and responded. Behind the scenes, Patriot Spotlight's production crew was scrambling. A producer, tablet in hand, whispered to Thornton, "The ratings are off the charts, but some viewers think we ambushed Pitt." Thornton gave a slight shrug. "We gave both of them the same platform. He chose to leave." He glanced back at the stage, the lights now dimmed, but the charged atmosphere still thick in the air. A young assistant covertly checked X, smiling as they read praise for Thornton's even-handed moderating. Leavitt, now leaving the studio, walked into the lobby where a crowd of Trump supporters awaited her. They asked for selfies and handshakes, which she offered with grace, though her gaze remained focused, as if her mind was already moving to the next objective. An older man in a red MAGA hat grasped her hand and said, "You spoke for all of us. Hollywood needs a wake-up call." Leavitt replied gently, "Thank you. I just want to speak the truth." But to her, it wasn't a personal win. It was a reaffirmation of her political mission and a chance to reinforce the Trump administration's message. Meanwhile, Pitt had already left the building, sitting silently in his car, eyes fixed on the passing scenery. His manager sat beside him, scrolling through social media. "Brad Pitt walked off because he didn't want to play politics," she read aloud from one post. "Respect to him." Pitt gave a weak smile, tinged with regret. "I didn't want to walk out," he said quietly. "I just didn't know what else to say." The car drove away, leaving the studio behind, but the public reaction was just beginning. Within hours, audience-shot videos flooded social platforms. In every clip, Pitt stood abruptly, face flushed, and walked off. Leavitt remained seated, her faint smile painting a picture of quiet triumph. One user named True Patriot 2025 wrote, "Karoline Leavitt just taught Hollywood a lesson." Pitt couldn't keep up. A Pitt fan account replied, "Brad didn't come for politics. He stood for the art." A third user chimed in, trying to find middle ground. "Leavitt was too sharp, but Pitt doesn't deserve hate. He was caught off guard." The internet split into two camps. Memes emerged, pairing screenshots of Pitt's departure with captions like, "When you think it's a movie promo, but Karoline Leavitt shows up." Major news outlets seized the moment. Fox News ran a piece hailing Leavitt as the bold young voice of Trump-era conservatism, praising her logic and poise. CNN countered with sympathy for Pitt, arguing he was blindsided while trying to promote Borders of Hope. Variety framed the incident as a cultural clash. This wasn't just Pitt versus Leavitt, it was Hollywood versus conservative America. That quote resonated widely, sparking more debate across platforms. Many agreed it was a defining moment in the ongoing cultural divide. Pitt, remaining quiet, let his team issue a short statement. Brad Pitt appeared on Patriot Spotlight to discuss Borders of Hope